Hello, fellow disc golf enthusiasts from around the world, and welcome back to coverage of the 2023 European Disc Golf Championships. A prestigious and esteemed event. We have a stacked card for you. 4 nations represented on our lead card going into this momentous final occasion, with only 18 holes separating your competitors from their final standings. We are happy to be bringing you round 4 front 9 lead card coverage. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, Connor? What is affairs? Nice to be here once again. And we have an interesting situation on the lead card because Dennis Augustsson has been playing incredible for the past 3 rounds and he's leading by 5 strokes.
We see joining him the Estonian native Albert Tamm. He has been throwing the disc incredibly, one of the best players statistically from tee to green, and when he had his putting together as well, was a force to be reckoned with, has earned himself a second spot position coming into this final day.
And here's a player we have been seeing a lot lately, Nieminen, a fantastic forehand player, also got a decent backhand and a very strong putter. He's looking to add a European title to his repertoire, which is still missing.
Speaking of strong putters, Jakub Semerád, 2022 World Putting Champion, I believe, and incredible player from the Czech Republic, always putting together great season after great season and in contention here for the podium. Those positions of European champion. We have hole 1.
And this hole 1 is really gonna set the vibe for today, as it is a great hole for stroke swings. It's an open, long bomber of a par 4. You need to stay on the left side of that OB line you see on the left side of the screen. So we're flying over the OB right now. On the drive, it's a big hyzer for most people. Dennis with that left hand gonna be going over the inbounds area for the majority of the flight. And if you get a nice long drive out there down the fairway, you're left with another huge shot to the green. Not by distance alone, but because with that distance comes also a lot of uphill slope. It truly takes a lot of power to reach the hole in 2.
Dennis has set an incredible pace throughout the first 3 rounds, the third being his slowest of the bunch, but still coming in with a healthy lead as your solo leader. He's gained it in round 1 and he's held it all the way here to the final round. Great composure in a high pressure situation.
And Albert was able to make up 1 stroke in the last round. Although he did not play particularly good, he only shot 4 under, and he knows he needs to do better today if he wants to have a chance at this victory.
See Jesse, his first lead card here of the European Championships, finds himself tied in 3rd, excited to see his skill set on this course.
Then of course we have Jakub. I'm sure he's very happy to be on this lead card. Boys, I feel like being on the lead card already is such an advantage if you're trying to win the tournament.
Your leader with score -26 par, representing Sweden, Dennis Augustsson.
You certainly have the privilege of playing last in the day. You know the score is set. Of course, chase card's still likely in action ahead of you, but you do know the context, and context for Dennis here coming in as your leader. He's had a great throw on hole 1 in previous rounds as we see him pushing the distance. And he's crushed it, contending with right side, but keeping it safe. Great shot to get him started.
And just listen to this incredible support that Albert is getting from the local crowd.
Representing Estonia, Tamm.
It's great to see And this whole one has a very special place for a gallery. We're teeing off from this huge edge of a stadium. Probably the most audible place for a gallery there has ever been in a disc golf tournament. And Albert is putting this pretty wide out to the right. It's looking nice, fading back in. Although he has stayed too far to the right. He has gone OB. And that's going to be pretty much an impossible par save from the drop zone.
Representing Finland, Nieminen.
Jesse here, representing Finland on this lead card. Certainly has had an incredible season so far, as we see him to look to shape the backhand here on hole 1. This looks like a good adjustment to the width compared to, for example, Albert's has it riding just barely over the OB through its initial line and the late overstability kicking in.
20 to par, representing Czech Republic, Jakub Semerád.
Nice shot from Jesse, and that was kind of what gave him the opportunity just last weekend in the Alutagusa Open to place second. Just, I believe, 1 stroke behind Mauri Vilman. Yes, usually more of a forehand player, but here's a backhand player for you, Jakub Semerád. Loving that overstable disc that he so often goes with, and that's just a perfect shot to start off this final round.
An incredible atmosphere. You already touched on, Elias, the enthusiasm from the Estonian locals, both for the sport and for their competitors. We go to Albert now from the drop zone, one of the few players who could potentially look to make it onto the green from this drop zone, but such a demanding throw. You called it nearly impossible, and rightfully so. We see with his power hyzer, he leaves himself about circle 2's edge and uphill. Will have a very long chance, but most likely a bogey start for him. We go to Jakub now, looking to cross into the green. Playing the hyzer as well. Shows that he has great distance off the tee if he's able to simply get the one angle shot, and he is absolutely parked in the bullseye.
That's what you want here. It's a pretty scary green because it's so far sloped that even if you hit the basket at all and don't go in, you're likely to be rolling down. And Jesse there, also a good shot inside the circle. He's gonna have a great chance to start with a birdie. And Denka here, this is potentially for 1 or even 2 strokes on Albert. And he's gonna have that birdie putt at the same time. Albert gonna have a long putt or even just an approach on his fourth shot.
And we see the conservative decision from him there. You touched on the rollaway potential of the green, and I think not a reasonable par to expect from the drop zone. We go to Jesse now, as he looks to keep pace with Jakub, who he's coming in tied third with. That was for his birdie. He'll be left with a par. Dennis, good for the birdie there. Great way to start his round. Hole 1 has been pretty consistent in creating score separation early on in the round.
And that's the scoring separation that Dennis is absolutely, in the best case, looking for, as he's gonna push that lead over Albert to 7, and we have a new second place contender, Jakub Semerád, moving on to the second hole. Hole 2 here also has potential for some scoring separation. It's starting this stretch of very scoreable holes on the front 9, going all the way from hole 2 to hole 6. And this one, it's a tight tunnel shot, very straight. You need to throw something low with some good speed forward, hopefully slide your way up to the circle. The shot itself is pretty simple, but difficult to hit this gap clean, as it is pretty small.
And the requirements for this tee shot set on the players, recurring themes here, requiring precision between the trees as well as navigating the low ceiling. And with Obi around the basket, we see Dennis up first, shaping the forehand and able to hit a line and actually find the pin as well. Was unsure if he was able to find the turn sufficient, but an amazing shot from him there off the tee.
And Jakub here kind of missing it to the left, but look at that break. He has gotten through all the left side trees, and that's gonna be a tap-in birdie for him with a shot that was at least a meter or two to the left of where he was trying.
Jesse here playing the available forehand hyzer route, and you see his ability with that shot shape, incredible speed control as well, and nice use of the stability to get quite a sharp rightwards movement off the final skip. We go to Albert now. Coming off the bogey on 1, he has an opportunity to bounce back here. Has quite a low release, but able to filter through the trees nicely to about circle 2's edge. Currently tied with Jesse here on hole 2.
Not looking like the start that Albert was looking for. This is a very important putt now. Making this would give him a lot more confidence going forward, but look at that, what a surprising choice. He has opted to just lay up, and Albert knows he's gonna lose a stroke to everybody on the card, as Jesse is the furthest one out at 3.5 meters.
Certainly, and all of these players with good experience at the highest level of the sport. Jakub, no stranger to these high pressure performances. He's putting together a great start here to his final round. Dennis, perhaps of these 4, with the least experience on these big A-tier lead cards, but your recent Swedish national champion, of course, has been at the top of the game. All of these guys with great composure going into this final day.
And we're moving on to another pretty simple par 3. This one even much easier than hole 2. Hole 3 is only 90 meters with a pretty wide gap off the tee. Only a couple of trees on the right side of the fairway to miss. This hole sets up incredibly good for a right-hand forehand. With a nice overstable disc, you even have that right-to-left slope at the green, making the forehand fade more mellow. Only very little OB to speak of, at least on the parts of the fairway that we can reasonably expect somebody to throw to.
Dennis with the nice use of the hyzer flip there, a line drive, and great navigation of that height as well, punched through very centrally his intended gap there. As Dennis also, so far, with a flawless start alongside Jakub. Here he is to maintain that perfect start, and that kick will leave him outside the circle, but a very comfortable step putter. He'll certainly be left with an open chance.
And yes, potentially one of the best throwers of this shot in the entire tournament, and just look at that precision. That's such an easy shot for him, and he's gonna have a nice tap-in birdie here. And now Albert, this is finally the time to get some momentum, and looks like he has got it with a nice overstable forehand there.
Albert, certainly another player who is at the top of the field in forehand capabilities, with both power, touch, and technicality. He's very comfortable leaning on that. We go to Jakub here. His circle to look up the hill, and in fact does not opt to give it the step. Finds himself a little bit low, but a good line as we feel the wind and see it picking up just a little bit there.
That's a very nice birdie from Denka, who has gone 3 under through the first 3 holes. He's looking absolutely dialed. And if he can keep this play up, he knows that it's not going to be up to somebody else's choice whether he's going to win this tournament or not.
Jesse able to secure that one nicely. Hole 3 coming in today as quite easy, with 60% of the field finding the birdie, averaging 2.45. Although worth noting that there was a cut where only the top 50% of the field made it to this final round, contributing to some slightly easier statistics in terms of difficulty of play, but still very attackable. We go to hole 4.
Yeah, hole 4. This is gonna be another one of these pretty simple par 3s, very scoreable. All of these players really want to get the birdie on this one. It's all about throwing that nice straight shot with a nice overstable finish at the end. You want to skip into these left side woods and inside the circle. There's a high chance that if you throw the good shot, you still might hit some trees at the end. So quite rare to see somebody absolutely parked here, unless they're able to manage through the trees nicely.
Dennis not quite parked, but with a great spot to be in. 7 or so meters, makes his way into the circle cleanly. The key to this hole and trying to give yourself the best chance to hit that late tree line is timing your hyzer fade. We see Jesse also there, look to the backhand, but with the late release, actually finds the OB to the right side. Par will be nearly impossible to manage from there. Jesse effectively playing for a bogey. Albert here. I was just mentioning about timing the fade. This is contesting the trees early on. Will leave you more of them to beat, but he does manage to filter through to that awkward C2 range where we saw him lay up from previously.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see whether Albert still opts to lay up from that same range, as he's losing strokes on the first 2 holes. And Jakub there with what looked like a bit of an inside shot, but he has made it to the circle. And he's going to have a chance to go 3 under through the first 4. As, yes, after that OB, pretty rare right side OB on this one, he's still going to be outside the circle.
And Albert, I think, realizing that he needs to start pushing these, although this one even slightly riskier than the last one that he laid up with the OB directly behind. He's kept it safe while giving it a bid. And we see from Jesse a good bogey save with that putt. Of course, not the circumstances you'd like, but after the tee shot, played it about as well as you could. And Dennis there, so reliable, continuing his hot start to this final round. 4 through 4. Incredible.
And Jakub pushing the left side just from 5 meters away. That's a critical miss in this situation, where he had a chance to push that second place lead over both Albert and Jesse to 2 strokes, but now instead gonna have only 1. Hole 5 here, another very scoreable hole, this time a par 4. And we have seen some struggles by various players, specifically Dennis here, so might be a chance for the other card mates to pick up a stroke. So you have this left side OB corner here at 2/3 off the fairway, or 2/3 down the fairway, which you have to stay right off in order to throw a good drive. A nice straight drive, about 120 meters up the fairway, will give you a pretty simple look to the basket. You only have a couple of trees to miss at the end. Really a choice of the player whether they want to go for the forehand approach or the backhand approach. A lot of available lines, but really on this one it's all about the drive. Can you get it in bounds? And in the last round, Dennis was not able to do that.
And we see him make an adjustment away from that left side OB, getting the full flex. You saw he really had to push the distance from that central fairway obstacle, but able to make the adjustment. You mentioned it as an opportunity for them to maybe get a stroke, but also an opportunity for Dennis to make the adjustment, and he's done just that.
And Albert here, you saw him throw a huge shot in the last round. And this time it's not quite huge, but in the perfect position. He's gonna have a simple, most likely a forehand approach from there, as he prefers that forehand over the backhand from that distance.
Jakub very comfortable crafting these flex lines with the Anheuser release. You see it from here. He has bombed this one down the fairway. That is a huge drive, finding the full flight forwards, pushing the whole way with a nose down angle. I think he's left with about 50 into the green, perhaps 60, but a really nice power drive around the corner. And Jesse able to just chip the forehand hyzer up there, knowing that with only 200 meters to this par 4, it should be enough to still bring birdie into play.
Very much smart play from Jesse, knowing that he's most comfortable with that shot. And from here, it's still the same shot to the green, it's just longer. He's going for that outside forehand. What a nice line there. Perfect use of the skip at the end. And Jesse is gonna have a nice bounce back after that pretty tough bogey on hole 4.
That's a great showcasing of why Jesse Nieminen is on your lead card for the final round. Perfect game plan, tailored to his skill set and perfectly executed. We see Dennis there, able to find his way into the green to another very manageable putt that he's just looking so comfortable on, even in this final round of a huge tournament, able to muster the courage and the focus to put together a great round. We see Albert there, unsure if he would make it, finds a great skip at the end of his flight.
And everybody preferring the forehand over the backhand, possibly to challenge that low ceiling better. And Jakub also gonna be just on the edge of the bullseye there. Some great approaches by the card, and Denka already going for the putt. As mentioned on the previous rounds, he's one of the quicker players. He does have a routine on his throws, but the routine is very quick. Just takes one look at the basket and goes, and possibly something that gives him the opportunity to stay calm and not get nervous even in these big situations, as he doesn't have much time to think about it.
That's a great point. I would certainly agree that some players tend to overthink some of their most difficult putts, whereas Dennis can just trust his feelings, trust his instinct, and go for it. What do we have here, Elias?
Hole 6 here. Even the shortest hole that we have had so far at only 82 meters. Shot is pretty simple, it's just a straight shot, the gap is not too thin. You have some room to work it, even from right to left or left to right, if you want to shape some different angle than just a flat release. Really all about just not hitting a tree, because if you hit a tree on this one, you have a high chance of kicking either OB right or OB left.
And Dennis playing the turnover forehand line once again. Every round when he's released that, I've thought it looks really scary, but he's consistently finding himself in the circle. I think his use of height and a touch of understability is what makes it look a bit treacherous, but he always has a great touch on that. And once again here.
Albert with a more conventional low shot here. Even a little bit too low. He's gonna have to make an outside the circle putt to stay on pace with either Dennis or somebody else on the card. It's definitely a hole that somebody's gonna birdie. Although it's not gonna be Jakub, but he got a very fortunate break there. He has kicked from the wall back to inbounds.
You see Jesse showing his forehand there. Nice nose down angle in contrast to Dennis's forehand, which was significantly more nose up. That nose down is the traditional line to match the slope. We go to Jakub now, who is able to just fire a flex jump putt up to the green. Really impressive spin and speed that he's able to create off the putt. We see Albert's opportunity now. Straight towards the crowd.
Not quite to be this time. And once again, you can hear how much crowd wanted that to go in. But yes, what a solid stroke there. He has moved to 3 under par. And pushing that second place, he's gonna tie Jakub Semerád for the second place. And Dennis once again already going at the putts, and that is just cold. He has gone 6 under through the first 6 holes. Wow, what a player.
So impressive. He's too good. How you beat a player like that who already comes in with a lead and then has a flawless start. Dennis Augustsson really looking to put his foot down and stamp his name in the history books as one of Europe's finest. What a moment.
We're moving on to a much more difficult hole this time. Hole 7 has some scoring separation potential for sure. It's not the longest par 4 at 186 meters, but playing much longer with a slight uphill grade and a low ceiling off the tee. You're trying to throw it as far straight as possible down the fairway, hopefully get yourself around here, where you have a short yet very technical, once again a low ceiling shot to this green that is just filled with OB, and it is playing as an island. So if you skip off the island, if you're not staying in bounds with your approach, you will have to play from the short side of the OB. So you have to stick the island if you want to have a putt from there.
And absolutely one of the most difficult holes on the course. Well, you'll see Dennis's flawless start certainly tested here. As he finds himself, he does battle into that hillside and get some good forwards pushing movement, but may be obstructed in his width in terms of accessing the green. And he's had a great start. To play for the par on hole 7 would not be a bad idea for anyone. We go to Jesse here. The low release of the forehand kind of favorable for this narrow height window that they want to pierce through, and a good shot by him.
That's a good position, although the approach from there is much longer than with a good backhand. For example, I hope Albert can show us a nice low-driven backhand here. And that is nice and low-driven, but not quite low enough, as he has hit the last branch of that low ceiling, showing off just how low some of those branches are hanging.
And Albert, a pretty tall guy as well, kind of shrinks that window for him a little bit with a higher release point on his arm. We see a great flex shot from Jakub here through the gap, and he's pushed pretty far up there. You see your point demonstrated that the backhand fading towards the green, he'll have way less distance than Jesse if they both choose to attack on the second. I think Jakub certainly will from there. Currently tied with Jesse, actually, 23 under. They are 1 ahead of Albert, sitting at 22.
And Albert here, not really gonna have a choice to go for the green, as he's absolutely in no birdie position. Just trying to play it down the fairway to a good spot where he can have as simple of an approach as possible.
And he didn't like that, but I think it's a pretty alright shot. Gets himself close to OB. Didn't push the danger by too much. I think just a stressful moment for him, throwing blind towards that line.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he didn't like about that shot. It looks pretty good out of the hand. And Dennis here, he's going for the safe shot. And that looks to be nicely executed. Gonna have just a 45-meter approach to the green for the birdie. That's well done.
And I think that decision really speaking to Dennis's maturity as a player. Having a flawless birdie start, he prioritizes safety on hole 7 over his... another flawless shot from Jesse there. Incredible shaping of the forehand, and the touch just so pristine there. Let's take another look here. Elias, walk us through this.
That's just the perfect showcase of Jesse Nieminen forehand. Able to keep that forehand low under the branches, but still above the hillside with the smallest bit of flip. That's just beautiful. And Jakub, this is an aggressive shot. He's trying to get through the woods and over the wall to get inbounds. And that has just not made it. Leaving himself with the same approach, but much shorter this time. Should be able to make the correction here. Although that has gone too far, he's gonna be OB on the far side. Unless this rolls back in, which it does not. Jakub is having to take another approach from here.
This looks like a very similar shot to his previous one. Little to no adjustment made with that different disc. I think looking like another harp in his hand. He's left this one wider to the left, although coming in very fast again. Tragedy striking for Jakub here on hole 7. These island holes, particularly in mentally stressful moments, can really cause trouble even for the best players in the world. I hope to see Jakub take a breath here.
This is, I believe, his 10th shot. And he's going to be parked for an 11. That is going to be a huge setback in his chances, both for the win, but also just for the second place finish. Jakub is going to be at least, or he's going to be giving at least, I believe, 8 strokes, or at least 7 strokes to Jesse, who is already on the green for the birdie.
And we hate to make definitive statements. Of course, anything can happen, but you can imagine that at this point in the tournament, a really nice shot from Albert there. Fantastically done. You can imagine at this point in the tournament that such a significant stroke swing is removing Jakub from contention, and I think he knows that. On one hole, it can happen just like that. Your chances of becoming the European champion potentially disappearing. Dennis, stone cold. And I really am impressed that he's playing for par here. Obviously, he's super far ahead and doesn't need to take the risk. But me personally, if I've birdied every single hole up until this point, part of me would want to continue that incredible streak.
Yeah, very good point. And Dennis, obviously being a smart player, he really knows his game, knows the course, and has made a great game plan. Knowing that he doesn't have to push right now, he has a lot of birdie holes left to both keep the lead and also just, I guess, satisfy his needs of getting the birdies, because looks like he has a big need for that. As we're moving on to another pretty treacherous hole, hole 8. Just a straight tunnel shot down the fairway, very tight tunnel and pretty far, 105 meters with a slight grade of downhill, playing at effectively at like 90. You have that Mando to keep you going straight down the fairway. Mando on the right side forcing players to go left of it. Really making this hole the most difficult is that OB both on the right and left side of the fairway, only a few meters from the edge of the tunnel. So any tree kicks might very well end up inside the OB area.
We have Jesse getting us started. He has put together 3 in a row, looking to find his 4th. Has a great flip up to flat line, but with little to no fade at that point in its flight, finds the left side. Does settle safely though. Very important off the tree kick. And this stretch of holes 7 and 8 have consistently played over par, and a defining moment of people's rounds, either making them or breaking them. And we see Dennis with textbook execution. The man cannot throw a bad shot right now. This round is another performance where he can really show his dominance as a player and his skill set matching this layout beautifully.
Yeah, this layout might very well be one of the best suited courses for Dennis's game, as he's one of the best in Europe, if not in the world, at that 100 meter to 120 meter distance. Very good touch with him. And Albert here also throwing a nice shot down the fairway. Just tailed off a little bit to the right at the end, but he's gonna have a nice circle 2 look.
We'll see Jakub now and where his head's at after his experience on a hole 7. He's looking to hit this flex line and looking like he connected with the Mando tree itself. Kicks to OB left, and there's a concrete pillar there that when you're behind it still is very awkward to shape your shot around. You see it there, really reducing his available window to the green, but there is a line for this forehand. We'll see if he can navigate this tricky line.
And looks like he can. What a nice touch there from Jakub Semerád. Showing off some pretty good composure after the huge number on the last hole. He still has a lot to play for, a lot of positions to climb on that leaderboard. And really, this is the European Championships. It's the biggest title we have in Europe. So each and every position up the leaderboard is super important.
This putt, super important for Albert, and softly and to the right. We've touched on it before, but that has been his miss on the green. Is just a little bit low. And we see he's left with this short comebacker. Likely easy work for him. Remaining at par, sitting at 1 under for the round. I think no problem to take the 3 here. Even after the cut, this hole averaging 3.15. The majority of players taking the par, but not Dennis Augustsson, as he takes his 7th birdie through the first 8 holes. And with his only non-birdied hole, he was playing for par. The guy's done everything he's tried to do without exception. Quite incredible.
Definitely one of the best performances on any front nine we have seen during this entire season. And we'll see whether he can keep that up on this hole 9. That is undoubtedly one of the easier shapes on the front 9. It's a basic hyzer. You only have that gap to contend with off the tee. If you hit the gap with a nice hyzer angle, you're most likely to fade or skip down there to the circle, or at least near the circle. Players really have a choice whether they want to go low with more of a skip shot or high with a stalling hyzer. And Dennis here looks to be going for the low one. This needs a big skip, but otherwise it looks very nice.
And just like that, he finds himself in the circle. Does hit that skip that he needed to. As we see him very comfortable throwing on both sides. We go to Jesse here. This hole obviously naturally shaping for the backhand hyzer. We'll see that from him. Also pushing this low line. Has it on a good angle that it will catch the edge, and just like that, you see 2-3 skips and absolutely parked from Jesse, showing off his backhand prowess as well, as we now go to Albert.
Albert here looking to eye down that high line, and he has done it, getting just around the last branches. He's gonna be even a little bit left of the basket, which is pretty difficult to do on this one. You see the wind kicking a little bit. Mostly today was very calm. It was great scoring conditions, but on some of the more open holes there was definitely some swirling winds that was a little bit unpredictable. You never quite knew which direction the wind was blowing from. But Jakub here, knowing that going with such an overstable disc is not going to give the wind any chance of affecting it, and that is just perfect. And he's going to have nice bounce back after a tough couple holes.
Yeah, really smooth shot, very low to the ground with that extreme overstability and enough power to get it there. Nice line matching his skills. And Albert, again, just slightly low on the cage. Of course, this basket elevated, asking for a lot more height and a lot more commitment to the putt. We see exactly that from Dennis with a perfect, in terms of his game plan and execution, a perfect front 9. 8 down. And to do so at this moment, in this context, coming in as the leader is really impressive. Putting his foot down, we see Jakub there with a good bounce back birdie after the tricky hole 7-8 stretch. Able to keep his head high going into the back 9.
That's exactly what he will have to do on the back 9 as well, as there's going to be plenty of more scoring opportunities, but also some potential for bogeys. It's really gonna come down to those final holes. As we're done with the front nine there, let's take a look at the scores throughout the field. Of course, Dennis with the hot front nine, nobody able to even match his pace there, pushing the lead up to 9 strokes. And Jesse kind of separating himself for that second position over Albert Tamm. Just a lot of players behind him. If anybody on this card or other cards wants to have a piece of that podium, they will definitely have to keep playing good throughout the back nine. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Connor, for doing commentary with me once again.
Always a pleasure, Elias. And if you guys would like to support this coverage, you can like, comment, and subscribe, as well as check out the Patreon. We appreciate every one of you helping to make this product possible. Make sure to tune in for the exciting conclusion of the back nine to see who will be crowned your 2023 European champion.